Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. She said, I am not cutting off my ex just because you are insecure. I looked at her across the small dining table in our apartment in Atlanta, heard the certainty in her voice, and felt something deep inside me go very still. Fair point, I said quietly. Then I excused myself, walked into the bedroom, opened my laptop, and finally did what I should have done a long time ago. I accepted the Amsterdam position I had declined 3 times for her. My name is Damon Parker, and for a long time, I built my entire life around a woman named Alexis Moore. We met 4 years earlier at a mutual friend's birthday dinner downtown, in one of those loud restaurants where music competes with conversation. Alexis was a marketing graduate, all bright eyes, quick laughs, and big plans about becoming an executive at a major brand one day. I was already a software engineer at a stable tech firm, the kind of person who loved schedules, clean code, and a steady path forward. That night, she made fun of the terrible karaoke our friend insisted everyone do. When it was my turn to sing, I did an off-key version of an old R&B song, and she laughed so hard she had to wipe tears from her eyes. Afterward, she said, "You are brave." That was terrible, but brave. We traded jokes, talked about our families, and stayed until the restaurant staff started stacking chairs. By the time I walked her to her car, I knew I wanted to see her again. Early on, Alexis told me about her ex, Rashad. They had dated for 2 years in college. She described him as adventurous and spontaneous, always quitting jobs, always chasing the next thrill. She said he made her feel unstable, as if the ground could shift at any moment. He was fun, she admitted once, stirring her drink. But I did not want to build a life with chaos. I need someone steady. Then she smiled at me. That is why I like you, Damon. You are reliable. I took that as a compliment and a responsibility. I paid my bills on time, had savings, helped my younger cousin with homework on weekends, checked in with my parents regularly, and planned things in advance. For a long time, it felt like Alexis and I were a good balance. She brought energy and color. I brought plans and structure. We talked about traveling together one day, buying a house, eventually getting married when our careers stabilized. I believed every word. The first major test came a year into our relationship. Alexis lost her entry-level marketing job due to downsizing. One afternoon, she called me, voice shaky. They let me go, just like that. No warning. I left work early to meet her. We sat in her apartment, takeout containers untouched on the coffee table while she stared at the ceiling. What if I never find something stable? She whispered. I reached for her hand. You will. In the meantime, we will figure out together. Figuring it out meant that I quietly started covering parts of her rent when unemployment lasted longer than expected. I would slide extra money into her account with a short message, just until things settle. I helped her rewrite her resume, ran mock interviews, and put her in contact with people I knew in marketing and product teams. She cried the day she landed a new digital marketing role at a mid-sized agency. You believed in me when I did not, she said, hugging me tightly. You are my rock, Damon. That was the first time she called me her rock. At the time, it felt like the highest praise. I did not realize that rocks can also be taken for granted. Rashad crept back into the picture in small, almost invisible ways. At first, it was just his name flashing briefly on her phone screen during movie nights. Alexis would tilt the screen away and say lightly, "It is just Rashad sending a meme in the old group chat. Nothing serious." When I asked if they talked often, she shrugged. Every now and then. We were together for 2 years. We did not end as enemies. It is fine. It did not feel fine. I would be sitting on her couch after a long day, and I would hear her giggle at something on her phone while her thumbs flew across the screen. When I asked what was funny, sometimes she showed me, but more often she said, just stupid jokes. You would not care. I noticed his name in her notifications more often. I noticed that she started following his social media again. Rashad posted photos of himself hiking in national parks, surfing on some distant beach, grinning at music festivals. His captions always implied freedom and thrill. Alexis would scroll through them, that nostalgic half-smile on her face. He is still the same, she would murmur. always chasing something. I try to be honest without being controlling. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together in my place, I said carefully, "It bothers me a little that you are still so connected to him." She put down the knife she was using to chop peppers and stared at me. "Damon, do not be so insecure. He is just a friend now. We have history. That is all." The word history started to press on me in ways I could not fully articulate. I began to hear parts of their conversations. She would take calls on the balcony, laughing at his stories, telling him about work frustrations. Sometimes she vented to him about the agency before she ever mentioned it to me. One night, I walked into the room and found her scrolling through old photos. There was one of her and Rashad at a beach, arms around each other, sunlight in their faces. "Why do you still have those?" I asked softly. Alexis snapped the phone screen off. "Memories are not something you delete just because someone new comes along," she said sharply. "You are always so paranoid lately." I reminded myself that I trusted her. I reminded myself that adults can be friends with exes. But somewhere under the logic, I felt small. Around the 2-year mark of our relationship, my career took a significant turn. My company's Amsterdam office reached out about a senior developer role on a cutting-edge artificial intelligence team. The email was detailed: higher salary, relocation package, housing support, international projects, and a path toward leadership. My manager pulled me into a quiet meeting room. "This is big, Damon," he said. "They requested you by name. Think about it." I thought about it. I spent a week imagining canals, different cultures, work that would challenge me in all the right ways. When I finally told Alexis over dinner, her fork clinked against the plate. "Amsterdam," she repeated, "as in leaving Atlanta for another continent." I nodded. "It could be huge for us. We could move together. New start, new experiences." She shook her head quickly, panic flooding her face. "I cannot uproot my life right now. I finally have a job I like. My family is here. My friends are here. Everything I know is here." She hesitated, then added, "And Rashad is going through some things. I want to be around for him, too." That last sentence stung. So his struggles factor into our major life decision? I asked quietly. She frowned. "Do not twist my words. I'm just saying I'm not ready to leave. Can you ask if you can stay? At least for now." I went back to my manager and declined. "Not the right time," I said. He looked surprised, but did not push. That night, Alexis hugged me and whispered, "You chose us. I do not know what I would do without you." I told myself I did the right thing. I convinced myself that sacrifice was part of love. 6 months later, the offer returned. Same role, better compensation. Again, I brought it to Alexis. "They reached out again," I said. "They really want me there. We could at least consider it." She tensed. "I just do not know if I can do that. I like where my career is going now. My sister is planning to move closer. And Rashad just lost his job. He's a mess. I feel awful leaving when so much is happening here." Her explanation sounded compassionate, but I heard the pattern. Other people's crises always weighed more than my opportunities. I declined the offer again. My boss stared at me, bewildered. "Damon, with your skill set, you could be leading entire product lines there." "I do not understand." I smiled weakly. "It is complicated." The third offer came the following year. By then, the cracks in our relationship were more visible. Alexis's friendship with Rashad had intensified. There were regular coffee meetups she described as catching up. There were late-night texts she tilted her phone away to respond to. She would casually compare us. "Rashad is planning to start an adventure travel blog," she said one afternoon. "It is bold. It is inspiring. Your job is amazing, but it is very predictable." I did not say anything at the time. But later, when I was alone, her words repeated in my head. Predictable. The same predictable that had paid her rent, supported her through unemployment, and turned down Europe 3 times. When the third Amsterdam email arrived, I knew it might be my last chance. I waited until we were eating dinner at my place, quiet jazz playing in the background. I put my phone on the table with the email open. "Alexis, they offered again," I said. "Same role, more responsibility. I do not know if this will come around another time. This could completely change my career." She twirled her fork, considering. "Amsterdam sounds incredible," she admitted. the photos, the culture, the travel. But I'm happy here now. I have my own projects at work. I have my routines. And honestly, if you're pushing this just because you are jealous of Rashad, that is something you need to deal with. This is not about jealousy, I said. This is about our future. I have turned this down twice already for us. 3 times would be. She cut me off with a sharp laugh. There it is again. You keep making our relationship about him. It is exhausting. I am not cutting off my ex just because you are insecure. People can be friends after dating. Grow up, Damon. That line hit me in the chest. For a moment I could not speak. I saw every time I had prioritized her in fast flashes. Wiring money for her rent, staying up late to help her practice interviews, declining flights to a new life because she said she was not ready. And now I was being told to grow up for asking for basic boundaries. I placed my fork down carefully. You are right about one thing, I said finally, my voice steady. Something needs to change. She leaned back, arms crossed. Exactly. I feel suffocated by all this jealousy. I nodded slowly. Fair point. She frowned, expecting an argument that did not come. Instead, I stood up, walked into the bedroom, closed the door, and opened my laptop. The email to the Amsterdam hiring manager was still flagged in my inbox. I moved the cursor to the bottom and typed one word. Accepted. I added, start date in 2 months works for me. Then I hit send. When I returned to the living room, Alexis was scrolling on her phone, completely unaware that the axis of my life had just tilted. I did not tell her that night. I let the decision settle inside me like a secret foundation, something solid I could finally stand on. The weeks that followed felt like watching a relationship unravel in slow motion. Alexis did not act differently. She still laughed at Rashad's texts in front of me. She still made small digs about my routines. You are always planning something, she said once, rolling her eyes. Sometimes it is okay to live without a spreadsheet. I kept my own plans private. I informed my manager that I had reconsidered and accepted the Amsterdam role. He shook my hand, relief written across his face. You will not regret this, he said. I started working with HR on relocation logistics. Quietly, I found someone to take over my apartment lease, a graduate student at Georgia State who seemed grateful to find a place near the train line. At first, the practical steps felt surreal. I packed my books one shelf at a time when Alexis was at work or out with friends. I donated clothes I never wore. I transferred some savings into a separate account for transition expenses. In between, I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed at night, staring at nothing, wondering how I had reached a point where I was planning an entire continent shift without the person I had once planned to marry. The breaking point came about a month before my departure. Alexis had become more distant, spending more evenings out. I'm grabbing drinks with friends, she would say. I had stopped asking who was included in friends. One Friday night, she came in late, the smell of wine on her clothes, mascara smudged just enough to suggest tears that had dried. She dropped onto the couch with a dramatic sigh. We need to talk, she announced. I turned off the television and faced her. All right, what is on your mind? She twisted a ring on her finger, avoiding eye contact. This is not working. You are suffocating me with all this jealousy. Rashad and I are just friends, but you keep turning it into a problem. I need space to figure out what I want. Space, I repeated softly. What you want. Does that mean space with him? She rolled her eyes. There it is. You cannot stop bringing him up. This is what I mean. He gets me. He is fun and spontaneous. We talk about real things without all the judgment. You're always so safe. Everything with you is about planning, budgeting, thinking 10 years ahead. I cannot help a short, humorless laugh. You're describing the same stability you said you wanted when we met. She waved a hand. I'm not blaming you for being you. I just realized I need someone who matches my energy. I'm not saying I'm running back to Rashad, but yes, we are hanging out more. It is mostly platonic. You are the one holding me back. So if I asked you to choose between keeping constant contact with him and try to repair what we have, what would you choose? I asked quietly. She stared at me for a long moment, then shrugged. Why does it have to be a choice? But if you're forcing one, then yes, I am not cutting him off just because you are threatened. That is manipulative, Damon. If you trusted me, this would not be an issue. The word manipulative echoed in my head. This from the woman who had leveraged my love to keep her comfortable while she kept an emotional safety net on the side. She leaned back, folding her arms. "I think we should take a break," she said. "Maybe a permanent one. I'm going to stay at a friend's place tonight. You can think about how controlling you have been." I did not beg, did not argue, did not list my sacrifices or remind her of the job offers I had turned down. I just looked at her evenly. "If that is what you want, then go ahead," I said. She blinked, clearly expecting a fight. "That is it," she demanded. "No, please stay. No, we can work this out." I shook my head. "You have made your choice, Alexis." She grabbed her bag, furious. "You will regret this when you realize no one else is going to put up with your boring routines," she snapped. Then she slammed the door behind her. I stood in the quiet that followed, listening to my own heartbeat. For a long time I sat on the balcony, a glass of water in my hand, staring at the city lights. Years of loyalty had just been dismissed as controlling. Years of sacrifice had been reduced to boring. Part of me wanted to text her, to remind her about Amsterdam, to say, "I am leaving in 2 months. You have no idea what you just walked away from." But I did not. I opened my phone and messaged my manager instead. "Everything on my end is moving forward," I wrote. "Thank you for being patient." The next morning, I blocked Alexis's number. Not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. I knew myself well enough to know that if she started apologizing and crying, I might fold. I was done folding. I listed my apartment fully, finalized the sublease agreement with the graduate student, and started saying simple, drama-free goodbyes to a few close friends. When they asked what had happened between Alexis and me, I kept it brief. "We wanted different things," I said. "I wish her well." At night, the confusion still pressed on me. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying our conversations, her dismissive grow up, her refusal to set boundaries. I wondered if I really had been insecure, if I had overreacted, if I should have been more relaxed about our friendship with Rashad. For perspective, I spoke with an old college friend of mine, Leonard, who had become a therapist. Over a video call, I told him the story, omitting the job details but explaining the pattern. He listened quietly, then said, "Damon, that is not you being insecure. That is you asking for reasonable emotional boundaries, ignoring your needs, belittling your feelings, and maintaining an intimate connection with an ex while dismissing your discomfort is not healthy. That is emotional abandonment." Hearing someone name it helped. The ache did not vanish, but at least it had context. The last 2 weeks before my departure were a blur of logistics and quiet grieving. I shipped some essentials ahead to Amsterdam. I closed out accounts, updated addresses, turned in my parking decal at work. My coworkers threw me a small farewell gathering at a restaurant near the office. They toasted to my new role, asked questions about life abroad, and promised to stay in touch. Alexis attempted to get through indirectly. A mutual friend, Monique, texted one evening. "Alexis is saying you overreacted about Rashad and that you are ignoring her calls," she wrote. "She says you are being petty." I responded simply, "We are not together anymore. I hope she finds what she is looking for." I did not mention Amsterdam. That was mine. The day before my flight, I met the new tenant at my apartment. He walked through the rooms with a checklist, measuring windows, testing water pressure. To him, it was just another rental. To me, it was years of memories and arguments and quiet Sunday mornings. I handed him the keys. "It is all yours now," I said. "I hope it is a good place for you." That night, I stayed in a hotel near Hartsfield, Jackson Airport. I stood by the window, watching planes lift off, feeling a mix of fear and relief. For the first time in years, my next step was not dictated by someone else's comfort. I set my alarm for an early check-in and slept surprisingly well. Landing in Amsterdam felt like stepping into another version of my life. The air was cooler, the lights softer, the streets lined with bicycles and canals that reflected the clouds. My new team greeted me warmly. "Welcome, Damon," my new manager Elise said. "We are excited you are finally here." I smiled and meant it. For the first time in a long time, finally felt like it applied to me. The work was challenging in all the right ways. Complex architectures, innovative projects, late-night sessions at the office discussing models and ethics with colleagues who loved the craft as much as I did. My salary was significantly higher, and the company provided a temporary apartment overlooking a small park. On weekends, I walked among narrow streets, visited museums, and tried new food. I began learning Dutch phrases, stumbling over pronunciation, but enjoying the attempt. The pain from Atlanta dulled as new routines formed. I joined a small group of co-workers who biked together after work. We would ride along the canals, the city lights shimmering on the water, talking about everything from movies to family to cultural differences. When they asked about past relationships, I gave them a light version. I stayed somewhere for the wrong reasons for too long, I said. Now I am here, and I am grateful. I did not check Alexis's social media. I did not reach out to mutual friends asking for updates. I let my life move forward. Even so, information found its way to me. About a month into my new life, my friend Leonard sent a message. For your awareness, he wrote, followed by a screenshot from another friend's public story. In the photo, Alexis and Rashad were at a music festival together, arms around each other, faces pressed close. I studied the image for a moment, then set the phone down. It was exactly what I had expected. There was no shock, only quiet confirmation. The platonic friendship had been a bridge to something else all along. I took a sip of coffee and turned back to my code. Over the next few months, bits of news drifted in uninvited. A close friend from Atlanta called one Saturday. I do not know if you want to hear this, he said, but Alexis left her job. Apparently, she quit without much notice to go travel with Rashad and help him with his adventure blog idea. He paused. It sounds romantic on the surface, but he does not have steady work. He has a lot of debt. She has been paying for a lot of things. I listened quietly, feeling a strange mix of sadness and detachment. I had once tried to offer her stability. She had chosen volatility. Thank you for telling me, I said. I hope she stays safe. After the call, I walked to a nearby canal and watched boats glide by. The wind off the water was cold, but it cleared my head. More updates came in fragments. Alexis and Rashad bounced from city to city, chasing content for his travel blog. Hotel stays, rental cars, impulsive trips. She used savings she had built while we were together, the same savings I had quietly helped her grow when she was unemployed. Friends who had once defended her choices began to drift away as the pattern repeated. One evening, Monique messaged again. I did not want to judge before, she wrote, but I saw Alexis at a gathering. She was drunk, talking loudly about how you were too safe and how Rashad was real passion. A few months later, she called me crying. He had left her in some small town, took off with someone else, and stuck her with the bill. She said she felt abandoned. I stared at the message for a long time. The irony was not lost on either of us. Alexis returned to Atlanta, but not to a strong support system. She had quit her job impulsively, and the industry had a long memory for sudden resignations. The agency where she had worked did not consider rehiring her. Other employers were cautious. Her old boss said she ghosted on a big campaign, Monique said in one call. People talk. Her social media shifted from confident photos to vague posts about healing and learning. From mistakes. Some friends who had once liked every photo now stayed quiet. Even her family was strained. Her sister Nadine, who used to defend Alexis at every turn, told a mutual acquaintance, she is spiraling. She left a good situation, chased chaos, and now she is shocked the ground is unstable. Meanwhile, my life in Amsterdam continued to grow. I received positive performance reviews, was assigned to lead a sub-team on an important product, and slowly built a small circle of friends. On weekends, I traveled occasionally with coworkers, catching trains to nearby countries, wandering through old streets, and returning Sunday night tired but fulfilled. It was during this period of quiet stability that Alexis began trying to reach me again. The first attempt came through my work email. She no longer had access to my personal accounts, but anyone could guess a corporate address format. One morning, I opened my inbox and saw a subject line from Alexis. My chest tightened for a moment as I clicked. Damon, the message began. I heard from some friends that you moved to Amsterdam. That is incredible. Congratulations, sincerely. I know things ended badly between us, and I wish we had handled it differently. I will not pretend I did not make mistakes. Rashad turned out not to be who I thought he was. I'm back home now, trying to rebuild. I miss talking to you. Would you be open to catching up sometime? Just as friends. I read it twice, noticing what was there and what was not. There was acknowledgement of mistake, but the phrasing made it sound distant, as if she had bought the wrong brand of cereal, not dismantled a life. She wanted contact again now that her adventure had collapsed and my career had taken flight. I moved the email to an archive folder without replying. When she did not receive a response, she escalated. A week later, I received a text from an unknown number. Damon, is Alexis. I know you blocked my old number, but I really need to talk. My phone has been a mess. I did not mean for things to end the way they did. Please call me. I deleted the message. Another number appeared days later. I am sorry. I was arrogant. I see that now. Rashad was controlling, and I ignored the signs. You were good to me. Can we just talk? I will even come to Amsterdam if that is easier. I deleted that one too. Voice messages followed. In one, her voice cracked as she said, I cannot sleep. I replay everything and realize how much I hurt you. I did not expect us to get back together, but I need to hear your voice. Please. In another, frustration edged out the remorse. Why are you being so cold? I thought you were better than this. You're acting like I am some kind of monster. Jake said you would probably enjoy watching me struggle. Maybe he was right. Hearing my life and my decisions filtered through someone else's anger was strangely clarifying. I did not respond. I had nothing left to prove. Blocking numbers became a routine. Occasionally, I would feel a brief tug of guilt, but it faded when I remembered sitting across from her while she chose space and Rashad over our shared future. When reaching me failed, Alexis involved others. Nadine sent me an angry direct message on social media. You are being cruel, she wrote. Alexis made one mistake, and you are punishing her forever by ignoring her. She cries all the time. She lost her job, her relationship, her friends. The least you could do is talk to her, so she can have closure. I stared at the message and thought about all the nights I had lain awake trying to understand why my needs had been dismissed. I did not respond. Alexis's mother called from a withheld number. I picked up, thinking it might be work-related. Damon, dear, her familiar voice said. I know my daughter hurt you. I'm not excusing it. But she is not well. She is anxious, depressed, lost. You were such a steady presence in her life. Could you please speak to her? It might help her get back on track. I listened politely. I am sorry she is struggling, I said, but I'm not the person to fix that. I hope she finds the support she needs. We ended the call amicably, but the line between our lives remained firmly drawn. Over time, the tone of Alexis's messages transformed. Apology turned to frustration, then to anger, then to desperation. You are heartless, one voicemail said. I thought you were different. You are hiding in Amsterdam like some triumphant hero while I am here, try to pick up the pieces. How dare you vanish without letting me explain properly? The irony of that accusation was not lost on me. She had walked out first. I had merely chosen not to follow. Months passed. I kept working, learning, and living. I went on a few casual dates in Amsterdam. Nothing serious, but enough to remind me that connection did not have to feel like negotiation. I cooked more, explored new neighborhoods, and built a life that felt fully my own. The next time I saw Alexis was not through a screen or a message. It was in person at a wedding back in the United States. A close friend from Atlanta was getting married near Charlotte and insisted that I attend. You cannot miss this, he said. You've been gone half a year. We want to see you. I booked a flight, took a few days off, and flew in. The venue was a small, beautiful place just outside the city. String lights hung across a courtyard. Music floated through the evening air, and guests mingled with drinks in hand. I wore a dark suit, the fabric better than anything I had owned before, courtesy of my new salary. Several friends commented that I looked different. Amsterdam suits you, one said. You look lighter. During cocktail hour, I stood by the bar with a small group, telling a story about nearly getting lost on my bike in a maze of canals. Laughter circled the group. When I glanced across the room, I saw her. Alexis stood near the entrance, clutching a clutch bag in one hand. Her dress was slightly wrinkled, as if she had changed in a hurry. Her hair was pulled back, but strands had escaped around her face. Her eyes were puffy in a way that suggested recent tears. For a moment, our eyes met. Something like shock crossed her face, followed by determination. She approached during a lull in conversation, moving quickly as if afraid I might vanish if she did not. "Damon," she said, breathless. "You are here." I placed my drink on the bar and turned to face her fully. "Hello, Alexis," I said. My tone was even. She looked me up and down, taking in the suit, the relaxed posture, the ease. "You look good," she said. "You look successful." There was a tightness around her mouth that betrayed more than the words. "I heard you flew back just for this," she added. "You always were a loyal friend." "This is an important day for them," I said, nodding toward the couple at the far end of the room. "I wanted to be here." She shifted, glancing around nervously as if worried we were being watched. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Please, just for a minute. I consider my options." Walking away would have been justified, but I sensed this conversation would happen sooner or later, and perhaps a public setting was safer than a private one. "We can talk for a moment," I said. "Here." She swallowed and stepped a little closer, lowering her voice. "I know I do not deserve your time," she began, "but I need to say this. I was wrong. About everything. About Rashad. About you. About that night when I accused you of being insecure." She shook her head. "Jealousy was not the problem. I was the problem." I watched her quietly. "Go on," I said. She took a shaky breath. "Rashad turned out to be exactly what I told you he was. Unreliable, impulsive, selfish. I left my job, my stability, everything because I wanted to chase excitement. He was charming for a while, and then he became careless with my time and my money. He flirted with other people in front of me. We fought about bills. He left me more than once. The last time, he disappeared halfway through a trip and left me to pay for everything." She blinked rapidly. "I came back to Atlanta thinking I could just start over. But I burned bridges. My old job would not take me back. Other companies heard about how I left. My friends retired. My family is frustrated." She looked at me with a mixture of regret and expectation. "I see now what I had with you," she said. "You were steady, kind, patient. You believed in me when I did not believe in myself. You covered my rent when I could not. You declined opportunities because you thought we were building something. I threw it away. I was ungrateful. I know that now. I'm asking if we could start over. Maybe not right away, but eventually. Let me visit Amsterdam. Let me prove I can be different." I listened to every word, feeling surprisingly calm. The room around us hummed with wedding music and laughter, but for a moment it felt muted. "Alexis," I said slowly, "I do not doubt that you recognize some things now that you did not before. I am genuinely sorry that you went through what you did. No one deserves to be treated carelessly." Her eyes brightened slightly, as if she heard a door crack open. "But," I continued, "awareness does not erase what happened between us. I asked for respect, and you called it insecurity. I asked for boundaries, and you accused me of manipulation. I turned down life-changing roles for us, and you said my stability was boring. When you left, you told me I would regret losing you. Instead, I went to Amsterdam and built a life that feels honest and mine." Her expression shifted from hopeful to wounded. "So that is it?" she whispered. "You're just done with me?" I nodded once. "Yes, that chapter is closed. I do not hate you. I do not wish you harm. But you are not part of my future. I am not going to reopen old wounds because your new choices hurt you." She tried a different angle. "My family is furious with you," she said. "They say you are cold for ignoring me when I reached out. They think you should have at least given me closure." I felt a faint, almost distant sadness for her, but it did not move me. "They are entitled to their opinions," I replied. "So are you. But my responsibility is to my own mental health, not to your narrative." Her voice rose slightly. "After everything we went through, you can stand there and say I am irrelevant?" Guests nearby began to glance over, sensing tension. I kept my voice calm and low. "You are not irrelevant as a human being," I said. "You are irrelevant to my happiness now. The two are not the same." She stared at me, realization slowly overtaking indignation. The roles we once played had reversed completely. I was no longer the man waiting for scraps of her attention, bending myself around her comfort. I was a man who had chosen himself and watched his life expand accordingly. "You will regret this," she said finally, her voice cracking on the word regret. It did not sound like a threat, more like a wish. I picked up my glass from a bar. "Maybe," I said, "but I would regret more going back to a version of myself that disappeared so you could feel bigger." She turned away, shoulders slumped, and disappeared into the crowd. A few people looked after her, then back at me. No one asked what had happened. The music swelled. Someone tapped my shoulder and asked if I wanted to join a group photo. I did. A week later, I was back in Amsterdam. The canals were exactly where I'd left them, the bike lanes just as busy, my apartment just as quiet and bright. I went back to work, to evening rides with coworkers, to trying new dishes at small restaurants tucked into side streets. Alexis's messages stopped. The noise faded. Sometimes, on especially still nights, I would think about the moment in our small Atlanta apartment when she said, "I am not cutting off my ex just because you are insecure," and I had answered, "Fair point." She thought she had won in that conversation. She thought I would stay and argue, beg, negotiate. She did not know that fair point was the last concession she would ever get from me. In the end, there was no dramatic confrontation, no shouted apology, no tearful reunion. There was a plane ticket, a job offer finally accepted, a block number, and a door that closed quietly and remained closed. She chose her version of freedom. I chose mine. One of us ended up standing outside a life they had thrown away, asking to be let back in. The other walked forward and did not look back. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.